Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. In just a moment, I'm gonna walk my happy butt over to the futon to check out the Netflix original, Demon City. Demon City comes to us all the way from Japan, and it tells the story of a hitman who is framed by a group of demons for the murder of his family, and once he gets the opportunity, he goes after those demons, seeking revenge. Guys, this looks like an over-the-top, brutal, bloody action film, and you know what? That is the exact type of movie that Haku loves, so you gotta know that he's sitting over there waiting on me. So it's enough of me sitting here jibber-jabbering on. It is time for me to get over to the futon because I need to check out the Netflix original, Demon City. Getting done watching Demon City, and guys, I thought this movie was fun. Now, before we get things started, I did find out something when I did a little bit of research about this movie. It is based off of a manga, and I believe it's the same name, just in Japanese. I think it's Demon City, but Japanese. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but from the looks of things, that's the best I got. But anyways, guys, why I'm saying this is because I have never read this manga. I am not familiar with the source material whatsoever for this review. So if there's something about this that is like totally off or something like that, I don't know, alright? Because honestly, I thought this was a lot of fun, but to tell you the truth, I feel like there was a lot more covered in the manga. I think that the manga probably goes a lot deeper because this film did feel very surface. So let's get this started, shall we? Let's get things started with negatives. Then we're going to do something called mixed, which I haven't done before, and then we're going to end with the positives. So we end the video on the ever so important high note. Okay, negative-wise, now this film is the good old-fashioned hitman who was wronged, who was retired, wronged, and comes back for revenge story. And let's just say this movie does not bring anything new to the table. And what I was talking about where I feel like this movie just kind of scratches the surface on what the manga might have in it is because it feels like this movie tries to bring into some supernatural elements. There's this whole legend of a demon that lives within the city that shows up every 50 years and goes on a killing spree. And so these gangsters are kind of taking this hitman out because I feel like they believe that this guy is going to be that demon or something. And then it also feels like each one of the members of this mob, let's just call them that, this gang mob, whatever, each one of these members, it seems like they have some kind of like supernatural ability, but the movie itself doesn't really flesh out exactly what is going on in that category, and they just kind of, you know, maybe brush it off as like, well, they're just really good martial artists, so they just know how to manipulate their chi or something. But they really don't dive into it awful much. So is this guy actually like possessed, like someone like the Crow who's come back from the dead or something? It doesn't really latch on to that and flesh out that storyline. And it also doesn't really bring anything new to the table with the whole wronged hitman thing. So in that area, I would have to say that yes, it doesn't really succeed, but this movie is a really good time. So let's move into the mixed. The mixed is something I generally don't talk about, and that's the film soundtrack. This movie's soundtrack goes into all sorts of different modes. There's some moments where I feel like the soundtrack for this really matched up and it sounded good. There were moments where it did not blend very well whatsoever with the sound mixing, and then the music itself just did not fit what was going on. And I couldn't tell whether or not they were trying to go for comedic value or to make the film feel like a little bit of a campy satire or something, or if it was just, you know, a bad soundtrack. I can't really tell. So that's why it finds itself in the mix. There were moments when the soundtrack sounded fine. There are things that it goes through, right? So there is like a hard rock, heavy metal moments. There is moments of like John Carpenter synth background music, soundtrack kind of stuff. And then it goes into good old-fashioned Midwest butt rock, the kind of stuff I would hear at any summer big festival here in the Midwest. And in those moments, especially with the butt rock, it so does not fit the vibe of this film whatsoever. So that's where it kind of finds itself in the mix, because there are moments where I like the heavy metal, I liked the more synth horror soundtrack, but then when they would throw in that weird butt rock, I'm like, where does this fit into all of this? It felt very strange, very campy, and it almost felt like the movie was trying to be a satire. Alright, so let's move into the positives. But what about those fight sequences? Oh my gosh. The fight sequences in this film are really where this movie shines. Sure, the story may be basic, it doesn't bring anything new to the genre, but it does have some outstandingly choreographed fight sequences that look downright brutal and bloody. This movie also uses a lot of really good practical effects during its fight sequences, some really great makeup, and some excellent blood splatter. The film does use a little CGI blood, but it doesn't look terrible. I'm not a huge fan of CGI blood, but it doesn't look that bad in this film whatsoever. All in all, guys, I have to say, with this film being a fun little romp that's on Netflix, I would have to say, yeah, this is a decent watch, but I do feel like we're only getting a very small snippet of the overall story of this manga series. So maybe there's more that's coming down the wire, I don't know, but this really just feels like a very overline, just a very outline of the story that might be out there. But other than that, it's a really fun, really solid watch. It's on Netflix. It's not going to cost you anything but your time. So if you're someone who likes a downright brutal, bloody, gory action film that is fairly non-stop violence, it does slow down in some spots, but it's pretty much just downright balls to the wall action from beginning to go, this is a definite solid watch for you. Even with some of the weird sound mixing and soundtrack, everything still comes out to be a fun, cohesive film. It is fun. That is it at its core, a good time for you just to sit down one afternoon, you got nothing else to do, pop a big old bowl of popcorn, and turn on old Demon City. Alright guys, well that's all I have for you today. Thanks again for checking out the film. Oh, I forgot one thing before you turn it off. I watched the subtitled version. I did not watch the dubbed version. There is a dubbed version available, but I prefer watching the subtitles so I can hear the voices of the original actors and get a whole judgment on how I felt like they delivered their lines and all, which the acting was just fine in this film. For a movie like this, it worked out just great. But I thought I should throw that in there that I watched the subtitled version of the film, not the dubbed version. Okay guys, that's all I have for you today. Thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.